allocate time and defend it, because your art is important, as all art is. The funny thing about that is there are many people in the world who, once they commit to that and say, I'm defending my space to be an artist, they live their entire life without getting a real job, without ever growing up or what other people deem to be growing up.
That's the reminder every artist needs. Your creativity isn't something you squeeze in after everything else gets your energy. If you want to build a real career around your music, you'll have to treat your art like it matters before the outside world validates it. In this episode, Mylo Bard breaks down what it means to build systems that support your creativity, protect your zone of genius, and turn your skills into sustainable income. We talk about purpose, structure, abundance, and the mindset shifts artists need to stop waiting for permission and start taking ownership of their careers. Welcome to Redefining Music. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Redefining Music, where we are here helping you navigate the music industry by sharing stories from artists and industry leaders who are out there doing the thing in music. And today I have a very special guest, Mylo Bard, who has so many years in the industry doing so many incredible things that I'm going to let him do a quick introduction of himself, because he just has so much weight and he really cares about the industry, which is why we're here today. So Mylo, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kay. That's really kind of you. My name is Mylo Bard. And this summer will mark the 21st year that I've been involved in the media and entertainment industry. I came to the United States just over 20 years ago, and I came to play sports professionally. Before I came to the US, I'd studied a couple of years in film school because I thought I was going to be an incredible big shot director, but I dropped out a little ahead of time because I felt like it was maybe a little pretentious for me, and then obviously got involved in professional sports, which is in no way pretentious at all. When I got out of playing sports, my agent asked me, okay, well, how can we keep making money with you and from you? And I said, okay, well, I got a couple of years of film school under my belt, and I grew up singing and playing piano. And he said, okay, cool. Well, we're going to send you out to direct some commercials and produce some sessions. And for me, getting out of sports and getting into the media and entertainment space, making film and making music at a professional level and a professional standard was a little bit of a heart racer for me. But it's been an incredible ride, and so far it's been a successful one. And I thank you so much for the introduction as well, Kay. Tonight, I think we're going to talk a little bit about how that journey is something that I've been able to use with my losses, my failures, and then the wins, such as they are, to work with other people in consultation, which I do now, to make sure that business builders can answer three simple questions, and that includes creative business builders too. What do you do? Who is it for? And what do they get out of it?
Yes, that's what I'm so excited to hear more about your journey and like that aha moment. So let's take it back a little bit. Let's paint the picture of how you got started, because, you know, we all start somewhere. So how did that journey start for you? And then take us up through what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting start because I sang songs and played piano in church. And that was something my mother wanted me to do. And then when I got into my teens, I discovered I could do other things with my voice. I could scream a little, I could rap a little. And to make a pretty long story short, I ended up touring Europe in a metal band. And along the way, while I was doing that, I was learning a little about music production, which was a pretty diverse kind of shock to the system. When I came back, that's when I ended up doing a couple of years in film school. So from a very kind of early age, I wasn't necessarily what I would call a professional, but I was witnessing a lot of professionals be very, very successful. And it was something that stuck with me. And so over the period of time that I'd been in the United States, I played sports for a living, which is great, which is in and of itself media and entertainment. And then when I got out of playing sports, I was able to build a pretty sizable ad agency in Los Angeles and Santa Monica, which was centered purely and selfishly around the things I wanted to do and the talents that I thought I had, which was creating film, marketing in a creative way for corporate, and then also speaking corporate to artists and creators to make sure that they could generate revenue too. At 10 years, we sold the company and I moved into consultancy. And the reason that I did that is what I learned is what my true passion is. And my true passion is making sure that artists and creators are rewarded and respected in the ways that they deserve and they desire. And so that's the consultancy that I offer today.
Okay, you touched on something there that really I want to dive into a little deeper. You know, you found that purpose, that your genius, you know, and a lot of us are kind of in this creative industry, whether we're performers or videographers, or we're kind of like finding our way. When and how did you know that you entered into your genius and this is my purpose, this is what I'm meant to do? Did it feel different, or how did that hit you?
Yeah, that happened about 20 minutes ago. No, I'm kidding. For me, I think that the same as a lot of creative artists who want to generate revenue from it, right? Like, and let's be clear about this. I think, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but I would just say if you're a creative artist and you want to make money from it because that's your dream, make some noise. Like, for real, make some noise. For me, I think that what I would say is I recognized, and I think this is true for a lot of artists, that I was dipping in and out of my genius a lot along the way. What I didn't notice, or what I wasn't tracking, was when I was away from the zone of genius, what did that feel like? And then when I was working in my zone of genius, what did that feel like? And so for me, working in major economies, it never really made sense to me that when I was kind of away from the creative, and yeah, we were making a little bit of money here and there, and we were getting talked about and doing all the cool stuff, right? It never really felt truly pure. It always felt a little jarring. And then when I got back into the space where I was working with creatives in performance, that felt warm and that felt rewarding. And the world will tell artists that they all have to go get $1 billion deal, and you have to, go do all the things that are capital related. And you can do that, but it's difficult to do that unless you're playing close to your genius and unless you're playing close to what genuinely feels good. So when did it happen for me? On and off, it's been happening for over 25 years. But when did it become real? Honestly, when I started the consultancy, and when I made a commitment to working with artists and performers, to working with business builders in the creative space, and saying, this is what makes me whole. And now, working with the law of abundance, which we'll unpack a little bit later, and I don't want to woo out too much because there's a way that abundance can be very, very easily explained. And now, because I'm doing what feels good and that path of least resistance is open, and I'm working with people and for people that I really care about, things feel good. So I would say I took the big step probably about 4 years ago.
That really is incredible, because that's, I think, where a lot of artists, including myself, we struggle with like feeling like we have to fit a mold, do the things X, Y, Z, when really that like is pulling us away from that like area of genius that we all have. And so I'd like to kick it off with like, what are some of those aha moments you had, and how did you create something? How did you step into it confidently as a creative?
Yeah, it's an interesting answer to the question, I think, for creatives and artists, because creatives and artists, what I had to learn to do, I'll do the spoiler right now, is it's systems. Okay. Now, for artists and creators, me being one of them, sometimes systems can represent a really jarring facet of what somebody's asking you to do, right? Because systems can represent things like getting up at a time you don't want to, going to a place you don't want to, dealing with people and things you don't want to. But as a creative, you don't just get to create with your media, with your paint, with your music, with your video camera. You get to actually create the life you want to live. And part of that is creating those systems. Now, let's be clear. When I started the agency in Los Angeles, I had no systems. I did not know what I was doing. I got out of sports. My agent said, okay, we're giving you 2 commercials to direct. It's an ESPN commercial and a Kobe Bryant commercial. And I was like, yeah, awesome, I'll take them. And then got the jobs and was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to have to figure out those systems as we go. So that was the first calling for me to say, okay, there's going to have to be some kind of form or structure in place here. And so what I did was I invested in myself, which I think I, as an artist, was very reluctant to do, but I advocate for all artists to do it, right? Because there's another part of our artist mindset where we're like, we can learn anything and I'll just figure it out, right? Like I'll figure it out. But I invested in myself and I got some really, really good coaching. And very early on, that coaching taught me how important systems were. And systems don't have to be starchy. and they don't have to be uncomfortable. They can be whatever you want them to be. And that's an important thing to create for yourself. As much as you are a creator in terms of the artwork you create your best life. And that's a soundbite. What does that really mean? Well, it means create whatever system works for you, right? You don't have to adhere necessarily to anybody else's system. So getting those systems in place has been very, very helpful. And it's very much settled me into my ability to be in my artistry, and also very much settled me into my ability to work in corporate spaces and demonstrate that it is not true that artists don't function well in systems. They probably don't function well in the system you are trying to impose on them.
You really hit the nail on the head there. And that's, I think, where a lot of artists can have that aha moment. And that's where I had to have my aha moment was the system doesn't have to look boring. It's a system that works for you. And so if you can like dive into that psyche of your own and get in there and say, how do I work? And then build upon that, because then that really emphasizes your genius. And then you can start to build that career that you're looking to build and really put yourself out there in a way that feels good and is simplified to a way that works for you, especially if you have a creative mind. Our minds are all over the place, but this helps hone that in so you can crush your goals and make things happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm actually in the midst right now of reading through a pretty interesting book. It's called Becoming Unstoppable. And it's by an author called Danny Felt. And she's a friend of mine. She's in LA right now. And she's an interesting character because she's a singer and a musician, but what she's done, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, I think, but what she's done is she's recognized how she's interdisciplinarian, right? She's noticed that not only is she an individual who can perform music and write music, but she can also write books as well, because writing just so happens to be writing. But the reason why it's a really, really interesting read, Becoming Unstoppable, is because that's effectively what it speaks to, amongst other things, is it speaks to finding exactly how it is that you're going to set yourself up for success time and time again, not getting into a space where you're like adverse to system or adverse to structure, but saying, I am a creator, I own my creative energy, and I can impose that creative energy on any part of my life I want. Not just making music, not just picking a set list, not just painting a picture, not just washing the dishes, not just going to a day job I've got for a little bit until things change, but anywhere and everywhere I can create systems. So it's a really, really cool read, but just something that I'm remembering as we're chatting.
I love that you said that, I really want to read that book too, because it really is creating those systems and then finding it gets you into that flow state. When you have systems in place, it kind of brings you into that place of, you don't have to be seeking. You don't have to be like jumping and reacting. You can be responding because you have the systems and you know where to go with those systems. And then you can be in a flow state, a creative state, much easier and much more naturally than if you're like reacting and jumping and going and like, I have to do this, I have to do that. I can't do this. It's never going to make me money. If you just like are able to flow, your creativity goes up and you're all of a sudden producing more tracks. You're all of a sudden getting more ideas. You're all of a sudden having more confidence in doing what you're doing. So I'd love, Mylo, if you touch a little bit on those topics.
Yeah, absolutely. The first and most important thing, I think, for all artists is what tends to happen is no matter what your discipline is, but we're talking about music tonight, what tends to happen as an artist is the world tends to tell us, unless it generates revenue, unless it makes you famous, then the art that you're doing isn't really that useful or meaningful. What a structure will do is it enables you to allocate time to that so that you can say, no, I'm holding space to do this work. Whether that work is pick a set, whether that work is mix your last track, whether that work is I'm going to make 5 phone calls to different booking agents today. The reason why I say that is because I think it's extremely important for artists to be able to defend their space and defend their skill set as well. Like we all kind of grew up, I think, probably the majority of people who are here on this call, in a situation where, we were producing a piece of music or learning a set list and like your mom or dad was like, when are you going to be done with that so you can do your chores? And then those kids grow up into adults where, someone in your life is like, when are you going to be done with that so you can, I don't know, get a real job? And then the funny thing about that is there are many people in the world who, once they commit to that and say, I'm defending my space to be an artist, it's a funny thing. They live their entire life without getting a real job, without ever growing up or what other people deem to be growing up, because they committed to it and they defended it. And that's a really important thing for artists to take on board. I think I would say, whether you're a performance artist, whether you're a DJ, whether you're a creative writer, whether you're a producer, allocate time and defend it, because your art is important, as all art is. And so I think that's kind of, relative to your question, that's what I would want to say to kind of creative artists and performance artists right now is defend yourself, defend your skill set, defend your art, defend your time. It's serious. It's a real thing. It means something.
I 100% agree with that. It's where, when we defend who we are and stand up for ourselves as creatives and saying, this time creating is meaningful. And if we stifle that, it tends to shut down that creativity. We start to lose that confidence, maybe step into a place where like, is this even worth it? It is. If you really, really know that you want to create, and that is the most meaningful thing and gives you that purpose, do everything you can to protect that, to grow that, to nurture that. It may mean having a job for a while, but really strategizing, again, getting into those systems of how can you be in the job for a while? That's okay. But then how can you sunset that job and sunrise your music or your art, whatever that creativity is for you? And so giving yourself that, even if you are in a 9-to-5 for the time being, you can still build your music. You can still build creativity time and those hours into your day.
Absolutely. And life can be hard enough. Your given industry as an artist can be hard enough. Why would you choose to be hard on yourself, right? We're inspirations as artists if we do that, because that's when art starts to become this transcendent quality that we have, where when we're working with ourselves as an artist to embody what it is we feel in a tangible piece of artwork, in a super well mixed set, in an incredible piece of production, in a fantastic lyric, what we're demonstrating to other people, and this is why art is so important, that you are in fact important. And so in a world where life is telling you, it's not that big of a deal, it's not important, you're not going to make it, this isn't for you, why would you tell yourself that, right? Like, that's... So, a lot of the work that I do is centered around that. And the reason for that is because, speaking of structure, there's a structure that I teach from in my consultancy. And the first tenet of it is cross-discipline. So when you're talking about, maybe you have to work this job for a little while, or you have to work this job for a little while, what you're actually doing is you're crossing disciplines, right? For example, you right now are an absolutely incredible and eloquent podcast host. That's what we're doing. But what skill sets, what cross disciplines are you using there? Well, you're a leader because you're leading a group of people right now. You're a charisma because you're having a conversation with somebody and hopefully drawing the best out of them, right? So for every artist, they're cross-disciplinary. They all have that. So if you have to go, work down at the local sandwich shop, maybe that's where you sell your first 100 mixtapes, right? Maybe you learn something about yourself. Maybe you're a salesperson and a leader and a manager, and you just so happen to also be an incredible music maker as well, right? And those are skill sets that are translatable. Those cross disciplines are translatable. That's important, what you're saying.
You brought up a really good point. As as artists, we sometimes look at it's just about the music, and this is where I want to get into a little bit of the conversation about how we can monetize our creativity to keep sustaining and growing, because we aren't just one skill set. We aren't just making music for nothing. We're making music for something, and to be able to tap into the superpowers within of you're making music, and you gotta learn sales skills if you want to sell your music, to learn those skills, and you can learn those skills. So let's talk about artists and the art of like, okay, I just want to make music, but what's next? How do we expand upon that for those artists who really want to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put something on the table here that's from my consultancy. So, and I just, what I want to do is I want to walk through it really, really quickly. Generally speaking, when I work in consultation, it's a little longer than we have the time here, but I'm going to do a share anyway. I'd mentioned cross-discipline. When, as artists, we're looking for capital, the methodology that I teach around this is capital, which begins with C, is driven by 3 C's. So I don't know about you guys, but my mind works in threes. I don't know what that is. It's a magic number, thanks De La Soul, whatever. But my mind works best in threes, and alliteration, the 3 C's works for me. But the first is cross-discipline. So say, for example, right, you mentioned that we have to go out and get a day job, maybe a 9 to 5, maybe drive Uber a little bit, maybe work at the sandwich shop. I don't know, maybe even like go down to the music tech store and do some selling there. That cross-discipline that you mentioned, for a lot of artists, what they're overlooking is their ability to sell. And you're going to have to, whether you're selling yourself to an agent who sells for you or selling yourself to a manager who defends for you, you're going to have to sell yourself. You're going to have to sell yourself to your friends. You're going to have to sell yourself to yourself. And so having those crossed disciplines and being able to say, I am an artist, but I'm capable of sales, speaks to a bigger conversation, which is how many other skills can I learn, right? Like as a DJ, you don't just have great taste in music, you have incredible fine motor skills. So where else can they be used? You don't just have the ability to play a great set and fine motor skills, you also have the ability to be charismatic and vibe enough so that when people are witnessing you, they're like, yeah, I like that. So the cross-disciplinary piece is really important because it's an acceptance for us, because some of those cross-disciplines will make us money. Now, hopefully we're not working at the sandwich shop for too long, but let's be clear about those cross-disciplines. If you, for example, as a DJ, since I'm feeling we probably have a lot of them in the room, but if you, for example, as a DJ, are on the scene, right, and you're doing sets every weekend, every other weekend, you're going to get exposed to a lot of stuff that will make you an expert in more ways than just a DJ. You're going to know what a good setup feels like, what a good club feels like, what a good bar feels like. Oops, well, you're a consultant as well. Good skills. You're going to know what a good flyer looks like, what good graphic design looks like. Okay, maybe you're also a designer. These are all monetizable skills that don't just generate revenue for you, but they fit right in the workflow that you're alongside. So the cross-disciplinary part is important. And the reason I say that is because for a lot of us as artists, we're like, no, I only want to do my art. And that's fine. But sometimes your art is a lot bigger than you think it is. But what does that mean for us when we then, as artists, engage with those cross-disciplines? Well, like I joked about earlier, maybe you go to work down at the sandwich shop, or maybe you drive over for a couple of hours, maybe you do. Who you're meeting while you're doing that? Because the second most important piece of an artist is their community. How many people know you? How many people care? And importantly enough, for community, you can start building that in really easy ways. This is a really important thing about, for example, events and sales. If you sell to one person this time around and you do a good job, you're actually selling to 2 people next time. And if you sell to 2, you're selling to 4 to 8, because nobody goes anywhere alone, right? I'm not going to roll down to the local gig and just solo it. I'm calling somebody to go with me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go see my favorite DJ and solo fist pump it out. Maybe I would, but maybe I'm a weirdo. Okay. So what that gives us the opportunity to do when we're moving in those other spaces is bring a community with us, right? So maybe you are, in fact, you know, driving Uber for a couple of hours or walking down the sandwich or whatever bad example I'm giving. You're meeting people who you can bring on your journey. Hey, do you know, I was in an Uber the other day and my Uber driver was Kay. She's a kick-ass DJ. She gave me a mixtape. Oh, she's also playing next weekend. We should go, but I'm not going alone. Bang, 2 fans. So the community piece is really important. And the final piece on the road to capital, we can break down more, is concentrate, which speaks a little bit to the structures and systems. You're going to be in a green room. Somebody's going to hand you the beer that will tip you over into the bad set from the vibing set. You're going to be in a green room. Somebody's going to hand you something. You're going to go to a house party. You're going to go to the afters. You deserve to make it as an artist. And you deserve to make it as an artist based on the skill set that you have, not based on the public perception of you that the public is altering. You have to stay concentrated. You are important. You are skilled. Even today, if you feel like you're not skilled enough to do, you're more skilled than you were yesterday, and you're more skilled than the majority of people. And so finding that concentration and saying to yourself, no, I am a DJ. I am a producer. I am a writer. Okay, cool. Can I have, like, you know, a couple of flavors at the afters? I could. But how does that affect my concentration? How does that affect me tomorrow planning my next set? How does that affect my hearing for the mix I'm trying to do? So these 3 C's, once we start to unpack them in my consultancy, the cross-discipline, the community, and the concentration, help artists to get really, really focused on how easy it is to make money. Because what we're all told is this: go get $1 million deal, go get $1 million deal, go make as much money as you can. And what we do is we look at that and we miss the big old part of community and capital and achievement that's right in front of us, right? And so there are some fantastic examples of people who pull that off time and time and time again. And there are some fantastic examples of people who pull that off and then forget that those things are so important and deviate from them. And you watch careers kind of fragment a little bit. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. It makes so much sense. I hear some people like reacting in here in a good way, because it really, you hit the nail on the head with those things. It's like just being really tuned in to life outside of just making the art. You're thinking about, how does this infiltrate into my life around me? How do I tell someone about my music? How do I meet a next collaborator, attend another show with meaning behind it? And then, yes, of course, that concentration, like really bringing it in. Because if you really want to make it happen, you can. You totally, totally can. And those are some really great tips. So a couple of things, Mylo. I want to talk about the abundance thing you mentioned earlier. And then I do want to take it to our audience for a couple of questions. So you mentioned that abundance. What was it earlier that you said?
So the world is full of sound bites. I'll give you a sound bite, actually. Oscar Wilde, an English writer, life imitates art. So the more life you live in, the more art you can do. Just to reflect for one of the things that you said, but life imitates art. So the more life you're living, the more art you're doing. So we live in a world of sound bites, right? Like abundance, manifest, these kind of terms. But what does that mean, right? Because like ultimately, I can go out into the world and use these terms and make them mean kind of whatever I want. But usually when people are using these terms, what they're using them for is because they want to create resources. Community is a resource, revenue is a resource, time is a resource, love is a resource. Some may argue, we'll get to the questions and answers in a minute. But when we're talking about abundance, to make the longer story short, and to be clear, I'm happy to talk about this with absolutely anybody. Just follow me and DM me and I'll start sending voice notes and you'll have to tell me to stop. Abundance is merely noticing. Manifesting is merely noticing. That's literally what it is. We, luckily enough, today live in a world and in a country where we have stuff, right? We are not without, not completely and not totally without. There are very few places that are completely and totally without, and that's why abundance works. Abundance and manifestation work around noticing. And so for artists, that's really, really cool and really important, right? Like I can use the example of a DJ. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. You want to go play a set at Coachella? We'll get you there. But what do you notice in your immediate community that you can help with for revenue that builds your community, right? Like maybe there's a birthday party you can go spin for 30 minutes. Maybe it's a couple of $100, but you know what? You just got paid a couple of $100 for 30 to 60 minutes work. And more than that, now a bunch of people who are having a good time are like, this guy is great. This girl is great. Okay. So when we're talking about abundance, what we're talking about effectively is noticing where I can affect change. Because what we do know as artists is our work is subject to the appraisal, sometimes negatively, hopefully always positively, of more people than us. We are naturally, inherently, as artists, community builders. If I go paint a picture right now, which is not something I would advise because I'm terrible at painting, but if I went to paint a picture right now and a few people walk by it, they'd make a decision based on how they feel. Maybe I create a community of people who hate my painting. It's a community. Maybe I create a community of people who hopefully love my painting. I wasn't even there. Right? So the idea around noticing very simply means this. When we slow down, when we put the social media to one side, when we stop looking at the superstars who've made it to a place that we're going to eventually, what is there immediately in front of me that I can monetize? What is there immediately in front of me that I can provide service to? Who is there immediately in front of me that I can make say, thanks, man, that was really dope. I appreciate you sharing that track. or that painting. Not my painting. I'm a bad painter. We've already said that. But that's where the abundance piece really works, right? It's like, it's all about noticing. And you're an artist. So that means you're detail oriented, right? Like if you're a DJ, you know what every single one of the knobs on that mixer does. So you're detail oriented, right? Like if you're a song singer or a songwriter, you know what every single one of those words and breaths means. If you're a producer, tell me one plugin in your DAW that you don't know what it does. You are a detail oriented animal. So just apply that to life. There's your abundance and manifestation, and you'll start noticing things that can be done.
You know, you brought up such a great point about manifestation and about the like abundance. Is it's really just allowing yourself to see what's in front of you, the little things. And, you know, I want to do a spin-off, Mylo. When I'm kind of getting in a low point, like as a lot of creatives, we struggle, we get into a low. I go into a practice of writing 3 things I'm grateful for every morning. It's simple things, snuggles with my cat, like getting out for a run, talking to my mom, little things like that, because that again starts your brain to start thinking of what else can I see in my day that is abundance, that I can be grateful for, that maybe is an opportunity I can be a part of and say yes to it. And so I think like really looking at what that looks like for you to pull yourself into that mindset to be able to have abundance in every day. It can be little tiny things, like had a bite of my favorite chocolate bar, whatever it looks like, heard your favorite song and that like kickstarted your day. That's how you can jumpstart this process, because it's not an overnight process, but that's going to start to open your mind and your eyes to seeing what's around you that is abundant, and that's how I do it. I don't know about you, Mylo, but that's how I do it.
Yeah. That's literally, there's a lot in life that doesn't need to be overcomplicated, because there's enough in life that is, right? And so exactly to your point, sometimes it is those simple things. And as an artist and a creator as well, you can apply those things to your artwork, right? Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with simply taking a moment to be reverent towards something very simple in your creative artistry or performance artistry that you learned a long time ago, that you've known for a long time, and just looking at that journey and saying, look at what I'm capable of. That's kind of a big one for me. The industry moves so quickly with everything that's, going on, and we've got new performers every day, and we've got tons of new music being released, and we've got new plugins and new samples, and we've got AI, and we've got all this stuff going on. You have to figure out how you're going to navigate your way through it. And one of the ways that I do it when it feels, and if it feels overwhelming for me, is to do exactly what you did, is to say, okay, well, what's something that I have and use on a daily basis? And how long is it that I've known how to use that? Or how long is it that I've had that as a part of my toolkit? And when you start to look at it, you can track how quickly the artistic mind works. You can do that right now. Like as an artist, you can think of something that you use on a day-to-day basis in your artistry. And then think about when it was the first time that you used that thing. And then think about the journey. That's how good you are. That's literally how capable you are.
That really is incredible. Mylo, share your contact info so people can reach out to you. Like he does send voice notes right away, guys. So I got a hold of him and was like, hey, do you want to talk to me about a podcast? And he sent me a voice note. So Mylo, how can people connect with you and your business online?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share 2 things, if that's okay. You can find me on Instagram. It's where I'm most active. I'm on all the platforms in the same way, and it's at Mylo Bard, MYLOBARD. But I want to ask you a favor, if I can, and that's to represent your city. And here's how I'd like you to do that. So I actually graduated from SMU up in Dallas, so Texas has a special place in my heart. And when I was playing college sports in the off season, what I used to do is go over to Austin because I really just love the art scene. There's a really, really rocking example of that happening right now, and it's an opportunity for you to not only build community, but showcase what you might be capable of and network too. At the link in my bio, where you can stay in contact with me at Mylo Bard, MYLOBARD, you'll also find a link to the Austin Music Video Film Festival. And here's what's awesome about that. It is an exact representation of cross disciplines. It's filmmakers and film enjoyers and music makers and music enjoyers saying, how can I be a cross-disciplinary business person? And their answer is the Austin Music Video Film Festival. So if you have a music video submit it. The link is right there in my bio, because it's a fantastic example of exactly what we're talking about today, of community coming together to create what is something that probably is outside of a lot of basically what they started out to do. But you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, MySpace, Carrier Pigeon, at Mylo Bard, MYLOBARD. And if you do message me, beware, I will message you back. So that's something just to be aware of. Kay knows. So that's just how that is.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Mylo. Yes, send him your questions. Reach out to him. He loves supporting the Austin and Texas community. So, Mylo, thank you so much for being a guest on Redefining Music today.
Absolutely. Really, really great to be here. And we'll get another one on the calendar soon. Thanks so much for your time, Kay.